let's talk a little bit about Cynthia. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Talk a little bit about Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. They've been going through a little bit of like backlash on social media. I personally think a lot of it is like overcooked, a lot of it's overstated, a lot of it's unfair. And I kind of want to speak a little bit about it today, because some of the comments I've been seeing online, I haven't really been liking too tough. I'm not going to lie. I haven't really been liking some of the comments I'm seeing from people complaining about how they are, what they do, and all of that malarkey. I think people need to fucking chill out. They need to fucking give them a break if that's okay. They need to fucking give them a break if that's okay. So this is the video that everyone's talking about, that kind of surmises and gives you an impression on what people are upset about. Some people seem to be upset about the way that they look, because they both have lost a considerable amount of weight. They're very slim, they're very skinny, they're very ripped, whatever you want to say. I guess in Ariana Grande's case, there's a conversation about her skin complexion and shit. And then there's also this thing they have going on where they seem to be very tactile. They seem to be very touchy, very lovey-dovey, very kind of concerned, and very kind of, you know, emotionally kind of connected, you know, with each other throughout their press run for this new movie, Wicked, or whatever it's called. So this is the kind of a compilation that kind of rounds up a lot of what they're doing. And again, forgive me for playing the fucking audio through the laptop speakers, but for some reason my fucking headphones aren't working on my laptop at this particular moment, so I'm going to play this through the speakers into the microphone. So please forgive me for this. This is a temporary fix, but this is a compilation of the things that people have been complaining about when it comes to Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande during their Wicked press tour.
This is also my first time doing the job.
You have been the light of the day. You are such a gift.
You brought such light into the room. Thank you very much.
We appreciate
for coming
it.
into this room today.
So great. That joy he wanted to be in every frame.
I think we found a little piece of ourselves in each other.
A beautiful sistership that continues to grow and grow even through this press tour. Something's bothering her. She's gonna fix something. I know.
Sorry.
She's getting the fixing itch that Cynthia Erivo gets.
There.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because the thing.
Biggest pinch me moment for each of you.
Now, don't get me wrong. Is it a little bit weird how they act, how they kind of communicate, the things that they do? Yes, a little bit, a tad, just an inch. But I also think it's kind of, I don't know, it's not that big of a deal to me. Like, they're actors, they're musicians, they're essentially at heart theater kids, right? They are true to the core theater kids, and they've always known to be a little bit cuckoo, a little bit weird, a little bit, you know, once on a spectrum, but a little bit, you know, not like every other person that you've met, especially in your 9 to 5. They kind of, I don't know, I kind of want my artist, I kind of want my actors, I kind of want my fucking theater kids, I kind of want my singers, whatever, to be a little bit kooky, you know, because it comes across and it comes out in the music. It's no surprise, in my opinion. I think there's a direct correlation between both of these women being fucking amazing singers, being pretty good when it comes to acting, being pretty good when it just comes to doing what they're doing when they're on stage in general. I don't think it's a surprise. No one's sitting here questioning their talent level. No one's sitting here questioning how they execute on the highest levels. People are just maybe wondering why they seem to be so emotional all the time, why they seem to be all over each other, why they seem to be weirdly somewhat in love with each other, whatever it may be, maybe questioning their weight. And even when it comes to their weight, I think the whole weight conversation is also a little bit unfair, because they both work in the entertainment industry. There are a lot of demands, especially on women. I think the demands on women when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to how they look, when it comes to how they present themselves, when it comes to, you know, their weight and shit, is really unfair. You really have to be at the top of your game, essentially, to have a chance at getting anything out of this fucking game. And unfairly, rightly or wrongly, because they are the way they are, that, you know, matched with their talent levels, I'm sure it opens a lot of doors, but there is a minimum requirement, like, needed for you to take part. You have to look a certain way. You have to be of a certain size. It's just what it is. It's like being a model nowadays. You just can't afford to not have those minimum requirements if you want to play the game, if you want to be involved. So I don't necessarily think it's that big of a deal if like a musician or an artist is like extremely thin. There may be some concern about eating disorders and shit, but I think we've all got some sort of disorder. I think we're all trying to make the best of what we got given. I think we're all trying to figure shit out. Maybe it's not helped with the advent of stuff like Ozempic, right? I'm assuming stuff like that is probably not helping, and it's allowing people to maybe indulge a little bit too much when it comes to rapid weight loss and trying to achieve a certain look, to look a certain way. But again, this all could just be reading too much into it. It could just be two women who are very odd, who are very unique, who are very special, who are very kind of like, you know, peculiar in their own way, suddenly meeting each other. That could be somewhat cathartic, especially in the entertainment industry, where you'd imagine there is a lot of pitting against, especially when it comes to women. For some reason, I don't know why it has happened to men, but I think women get pitted against each other a lot more than men do, especially through their teams, their agents and stuff. Just them as an artist, there's a lot of jealousy or whatever it may be. Sometimes women feel like they can't share the room with other women. So imagine you meet somebody who's as peculiar, as maybe on the spectrum, as maybe odd as you are. It can be somewhat of a enlightening moment. That's what I feel like with them. I feel like when they met each other, they were kind of taken aback by how similar they are, despite them coming from two completely different backgrounds. It was probably a shock. It does happen from time to time. Like, you do have those moments, especially, it doesn't happen a lot when you're an adult. Unfortunately, it's really sad. It doesn't really happen to us when you're an adult. But sometimes when you're a kid, at least, there were those moments where you'd go to another hood, you go to another area, you play a fucking football tournament, you'd be in the fucking church somewhere, you'd be in some random place and you bump into somebody and you just happen to click in a way that you just can't explain. You happen to meet somebody that is essentially like the physical or the personality embodiment of you, but just in another fucking physical body. And it could be really kind of like mind blowing. Like, oh my God, shit. I couldn't believe I would meet somebody that's just as odd as I am. It can be somewhat soothing and cathartic to be like, fuck, finally, I'm not alone. I'm not a freak. I'm not a fucking weirdo. So I think that's what's probably happening with them two. They just finally found each other, found someone, you know, found similar things in each other, and they're not letting go, because especially in adult, you know, in your adult years, adulthood, it's hard to make new friends. So if you do find somebody that you really click with, you're not going to let that motherfucker go. You're going to make sure you keep them by your side. You know, you're going to extend that holiday. You're going to keep pushing back your return date. You're going to stay. It's like a relationship. Like when you meet, you know, it's like when you go on holiday and you fucking fall in love with somebody randomly. You kind of, you know, it's all about them and you don't want to fucking go home because it's such a special kind of moment. So I think the same thing happened with them, just with this like platonic relationship that they're both kind of obviously, you know, professional relationship, whatever else going on. So I don't really think it's as deep as people making it out. I'm not going to lie. I just think they finally found somebody that is as similar as them, and they're just exploring this fucking relationship, whatever it may be. They clearly get on with each other outside of work as well. They seem to hang out with each other a lot. I don't have a problem with it at all. And I think when it comes to the weight thing, again, Ozempic has swept the nation. It's a very easy way to attain a certain look and to lose a lot of weight. People are sometimes abusing it. Like, we abuse all things. Us humans, we're fucking flawed like that. We abuse fucking everything. We abuse fast food. We abuse booze. We abuse everything. So it's no surprise some people are abusing it. Maybe they're abusing it. I don't really know. I don't really have to judge it. I just think these are people operating on the highest levels when it comes to the entertainment industry. They're trying their best to kind of keep themselves up there. And I think we also have to be very conscious and very aware of the whole Chadwick Boseman element. Remember when Chadwick Boseman, RIP to him, right? The Black Panther actor, when he was going through his cancer situation, and unfortunately that obviously led to his death. So RIP to him. But when he was going through his situation and his illness, his disease, prior to that, nobody knew he had a cancer diagnosis, and people were commenting a lot on his rapid weight loss. Mostly, I think it came from a level of concern because people saw what he looked like in Black Panther and were kind of impressed and very, you know, big fans of his physical transformation and how muscular he looked and all this malarkey. So maybe some people were some sort of disappointment or maybe concern, but there was a lot of comments, a lot of judgment being placed upon his appearance. Even RIP Virgil Abloh before he passed away. When Virgil Abloh was going through chemo and whatever, we didn't know as obviously outside viewers, but now looking back, it was clear he was going through shit. People were also commenting on his appearance. So I think people have to be very cautious of commenting on that sort of stuff because you never know what people are going through. I don't think it's that serious with them. I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's that serious with them. But I also think people need to be a little bit more accepting of people who work in an industry that sort of like pushes and kind of like, you know, asks for a certain type of personality. I think people need to kind of remove their regular 9-to-5 glasses and just allow people who work in like, you know, niche industries to act a little bit kooky. I think that's okay. That's a good thing. It's part of the job. I want my actors to be a little bit weird, a little bit wacky. You know, I want my musicians to be a little bit whatever, you know, because it will show in the fucking music, personally speaking. But I could be wrong. I could be freaking wrong. This is courtesy of the Free Press. This is probably going to be a critical article, but let's read it anyway. It says, in Wicked, there is a very thin elephant in the room. Big up to Cara Kennedy from the Free Press. It says, this week, thousands of little girls across the country will slip into the emerald green or frothy pink dresses and pile into theaters to watch the second installment of Wicked. Their dutiful mothers trailing behind. Oh, so it's a second edition of the movie. When did the first one come out? It feels like the first one just came out the other day. This movie must have made a lot of money because they turned this around quickly. I felt like, innit? I feel like the first Wicked movie must have come out recently because I remember the first press run that everyone was talking about. Whenever this movie is fucking box office, by the way, it clearly makes a lot of money. And whenever these girls go on their press run, it generates a lot of clicks. Everyone's always mentioning how they talk. You know what I mean? I think they've cancelled the press run now. I think after the Ariana Grande got accosted by that guy when they went to Asia somewhere, right? That guy that kind of jumps everybody. But this movie must do well in the box office for sure. Anyway, it continues. My own daughter isn't old enough to see it, but if she were, I'd feel torn because delightful as the movie looks, the characters whose shoes so many girls would slip into, the prettiest, sweetest goddess witch in Oz has a waist roughly the diameter of a drinking straw. Honestly, people are so mean, innit? Like, ay. Let's continue. Ariana Grande was utterly fantastic as Glinda, in the first Wicked film, shot at the same time as the second one, but released later last year. Oh, that's why they turned around so quickly. The first and second movie were shot at the same time, but just released separately. That's actually a really smart idea, to be honest. They must have knew that it was going to be a fucking smash. But she appears delicate, it says here, so gaunt, it's impossible not to feel uneasy. It's not that bad though, man. Maybe it's because I see a lot of like ED stuff on Twitter. I see a lot of like, you know, eating disorder content on Twitter because there's a big community of people on there. I feel like all the girls that were on Tumblr sharing a lot of ED content are now on Twitter. And there's clearly an ED community when it comes to men's fitness and stuff. When it comes to intermittent fasting and whatever else it may be, there's a lot of that going on at the moment. So I guess I'm not too unaware of it, but they don't even look that crazy. I've seen far worse. Like, you know, I've seen more extreme versions of it, by the way. But hey, what do I know? Every time she does one of those Gilda signature 12s, you half worry she might snap in half. But it's even harder to see her now. A few years on, as she jets about on the press tour for Wicked for Good, her collarbones protrude, her size 0 dress sags. You can count her ribs. Cynthia Verio, who plays Elphaba, has also dropped a dramatic amount of weight since she began filming. I think it's harder to pin the whole ED thing on Cynthia Erivo because I think she clearly looks like she does Pilates or something or yoga, you know, because she's very ripped. Yeah, she's very skinny, but her arms are crazy, you know, chest is crazy, abs are clearly like she looks like she works out. Like that lady looks like she's ripped as fuck. So I think if you was to grab, you know, in a very violent way, Cynthia Erivo in real life, I think if you was to touch her shoulder, touch her bicep, I think it would feel like coiled fucking steel. She looks ripped as hell. So maybe Ariana Grande maybe is going through it. I don't know, but I think again, there's too much onus put on these type of things when really it could just be two actresses trying their best to make sure they get booked and busy. You know, trying to make sure that they're booked and busy. And by being booked and busy, you have to be a certain size and whatever. They're trying to maintain it. There might be some competitive ED stuff going on there because they're so close. That can also happen. I don't know, but I don't think it's as bad people are making it out to be. It continues. Parents live in a permanent state of anxiety over what to expose their children to, what feels harmless, what feels risky, what cultural messages they can be allowed to absorb, which heroines are worth admiring, and fear often drives cultural debates. One of the many random offshoots of the hashtag MeToo movement was a concerted campaign against animated princesses who the cultural establishment formally decided were not just outdated but actively harmful because they encourage our daughters to idolize impossible thinness. Is that true? Yo, we were down bad. We were living in rough times back in the day. We cancelled Disney princesses because they were too skinny. But aren't they cartoons? Isn't that animation? Isn't that a drawing? You're taking fucking beauty standards and like from a fucking cartoon. Like what? Honestly, they banned Disney princess because they're like, excuse me. So can't you just draw some fat ones? Why would you ban the skinny ones? Just draw some fat ones or draw some ones that are maybe curvy or whatever. Why would you just ban the fat? Like, oh my God, what a weird society we had back in the day, man. Anyway, it continues. In 2017, The Guardian declared it's official. Disney princesses reinforce limiting gender stereotypes. God, like it's a cartoon. You could shoot. Shouldn't the idea behind cartoons and animation be that they don't require as much effort or as much work, or they're not as hard to kind of complete as maybe a movie is, live action movie? So technically, if you're not feeling like you're getting representation you want, you can literally create your own thing. You can literally create whatever you want to create to kind of get the message you want to get across. You don't have to force the movies that are currently there to kind of acquiesce to your worldview. You can just make new ones. You know, if you feel like maybe the Disney cartoons are too thin and too white, you can just draw or invent new stories and have them be more representative of the current times or stuff that you want to see, stories you want to tell, blah, 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 blah. It really shouldn't be that difficult. But hey, what do I know? It continues. It's official. Disney princesses reinforce limiting gender stereotypes, citing research that claimed that characters contributed to body esteem issues in young girls. Tiny waists, shimmering gowns were not innocent fantasies, but a public health hazard. This was the progressive line. So I guess maybe this is just a woman thing. I don't really understand, but it is kind of concerning that there are women out there that felt pressured about being thin because of a cartoon. Like, that's heartbreaking. I'm not gonna lie. That's fucking heartbreaking. It continues. To mitigate this, Disney princesses filled out. We widened their hips, thickened their wrist, and wrote them boss bitch monologue, about the patriarchy. Mona was designed with an athletic build and sturdy legs, a body made from voyaging rather than fainting. In Raya and The Last Dragon, the female hero was given visible biceps and a fighter stance. Even Minnie Mouse traded in her mini dress for a progressive pantsuit. So what are we to do with this flesh and blood Glinda, who looks even more fragile than her ink paint predecessors, and Elphaba, who's shrinking with every paparazzi shot? The rule is don't comment, don't question. I don't think it's don't comment. The rule should be just be kind, innit? Like, don't always go for the worst possible conclusion. Give people the benefit of the doubt. It could just be harmless. It could just be two people just, pushing each other to be thin because they're actors and whatever. They work in industry where image and body stuff are quite important. It could just be happenstance, whatever. Just let's not be, out of the gate mean. Let's maybe consider people's feelings. But I guess nowadays doing that, you kind of sound like you're cucked. You kind of sound like, you can't say that. You kind of have to always just say what you want to say, as harsh as you want to say it. And if someone cries or gets upset, hell be, so be it, which is not fair. But hey, it continues. Since the release of the first film, Grande hasn't explicitly addressed any of the concerns, which he shouldn't, by the way. It's none of one's business. I'm a big believer. Like, I don't think I'm going to play something or talk about something when it comes to Adam Port. I think it's really important if you're a notable figure. Like, you have to draw a line somewhere when it comes to the stuff that you talk about. You have to maybe be private with your relationships, maybe with your kids, maybe with your family overall. Maybe you don't want to talk about certain things when it comes to your health. You have to be a line that you're not willing to cross and things that you're willing to keep close to your chest as an artist or as a public figure. And I think one of them should be your health. One of them should be your lifestyle, whatever. You shouldn't answer any questions it's no one's business, really and truly. Since the first release of the film, Grande hasn't explicitly addressed any of the concerns, but last December when an interviewer asked her how she deals with the pressure of looking perfect, she welled up and said, "I've heard every version of what's wrong with me," she says, before saying she thinks it's dangerous to live in a society where if you go to Thanksgiving dinner and someone's granny says, "Oh my God, you look skinnier, what happened?" No one has the right to say that, she said. And that's true, by the way. That's true. I know that to be an issue with women in general. I do remember a friend of a friend who's from Brazil telling me once that was one of the pressures that she discovered, or she kind of received growing up in Brazil, where whenever she would go to like her auntie's house or family's house, whatever, or aunties would come over, the first thing all the aunties and whatever, you know, women relatives would comment on was each other's weight, especially when it comes to the kids. The first comment, like as soon as you walk into the kitchen, walk into the living room, wherever they are, and they're all talking, having kind of women chat, the first thing they will comment on was like, oh my God, look at you, look how skinny you are, look how, I mean, so there was this constant pressure behind your head to kind of make sure you were of a certain size, so your auntie didn't fucking rip into you, your manager didn't fucking go crazy on you. Do you know what I mean, it's just weird, really and truly. But hey, what can you do? It continues, says, when Grande did address fans' concerns about her health via a TikTok video in 2023, she claimed that those who point out old pictures of her looking healthier are in fact idolizing the unhealthiest version of my body, she said. There was a lot of antidepressants and drinking on them. Yeah, that's hilarious, by the way. I'm actually healthier now. It's like, okay, cool, I guess, cool. She then asked for universal silence on the subject, saying we should all be less comfortable commenting on people's bodies, health, unhealthily, big, small, this or that. That is true, but unfortunately social media doesn't work that way. I think in general, people should maybe leave people alone, especially when it comes to their appearance, because you just never know what people are going through. You know, you never fucking know. People, for the most part, you know, keep themselves to themselves, head on the water and stuff, all that malarkey. So you don't really know what people are going through. You really fucking don't know what people are going through. Grande's comments have been met with overwhelming support from the same progressive media that once complained, it says here, about Disney's tiny princesses. Ariana Grande does not owe the internet any explanation for her weight loss, one headline scolded. Another praised her for addressing body shaming and critics in her heartbreaking TikTok. The public has been instructed, stand down, we look on as she wastes away, our tongues tied, and Ariana taking no further questions this time. I don't know what they want, man. I don't know what they want. You're not entitled to somebody's response or to explanation when it comes to these things. You can read into what you want to read into, but you're not honestly deserving of that. I don't think you are. So this is fucking dumb, but hey, let's continue. And maybe silence is her prerogative. It says maybe it's upsetting of strangers to ask based on your appearance. If you're okay, I guess it would be nice for famous people if they didn't have opinions of their bodies. But we do. We always will. And again, this comes from a woman, by the way. This is like the side thing about this article is that it comes from another woman. There's not a lot of grace. There's not a lot of like love. There's not a lot of sensitivity. There's not a lot of whatever come across here from a fellow woman. That's a really sad bit. Like, she's not even trying to like understand where they're coming from. She's just kind of ripping into them, saying, but we do always and we always will. Their bodies often are part of the reason they're famous, and it feels bizarre that viewers who flock to the theaters to feast on their eyes and spectacle should be told not to comment on what they see. Yeah, well, you can comment on it, don't get me wrong. I just don't think you should be entitled to a response. It kind of feels like he wants both. He kind of wants to be able to say what he wants to say to these people in private, but then also he wants to be dignified with a response, proper ones. I don't think you should. Not gonna lie, man, don't think you should be all about, but anyway, it says, especially because a lot of people commenting on her appearance aren't doing it because they hate her. They're doing it because they love her, at least. They love the work. Especially because we're not talking about a few pounds lost to squeeze into a dress or a premiere. As one op-ed began, commenting on other people's bodies is extremely rude, but I've found that the photos and videos coming from Wicked promotional tale so concerning, and silence would be on balance worse. Again, it's not that concerning. Like, Ariana Grande has always been a very, I would say, slim, very kind of skinny girl anyway. Cynthia Erivo, same thing. It's a bit more, I guess extreme quote unquote looking, but it could just be like an upping of the miles, an upping of the fucking weekly mileages, maybe an increasing of the fucking exercises during the evening. I don't know, it's not that deep. The caveat is revealing. It says it wasn't so long ago that the body positivity movement, which insisted women can be healthy at any size, decreed that all comments on women's bodies are harmful. Both Grande and her defenders use language from the playbook. As Grande said in her TikTok, one paper complained, there are many difficult ways to look healthy. To look healthy and beautiful. Yeah, I guess there are. Sorry there. It continues that this is exactly the same vocabulary that once protected £300 cover models from the mildest health questions. If you said test daily was dangerous, overweight and height. Again, I think the entitlement is fucking crazy. The entitlement, like, I'm almost getting to a point where I think you can ask a question, I don't have to give you an answer. You know, that's what I'm thinking. And they're not promoting anything. It's not as if they're both selling, you know, Ozempic. It's not as if they're both selling weight loss stuff. You know, they're not really going gym like that. It's just like, you know, they're not like paying for people to be there. It's just a random, I don't know. I just find it's all a bit weird, personally. I just find all of this a bit weird and a bit peculiar. I just find it all a bit weird and fucking peculiar. But big up this article. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. You can check it out. It's available now in the free press. It says in Wicked, there's a very thin elephant in the room. There's a very thin elephant in the room. Actually, let me read the last paragraph. Let's see what she rounds it up. What's the last paragraph? In the end, the question isn't whether Grande is too thin. It's whether she will one day, like China, admit that the body she insisted was beautiful wasn't actually healthy. For now, we're not allowed to talk about standing in front of us, a gorgeously clad frame that millions of girls have watched walk the red carpet on TikTok this week, even as their mothers who came of age in the era of heroin chic models get a wary sense of deja vu. So if anything, I think what they've done really well, again, I don't really comment on it and stuff, it doesn't really affect what they're doing, but I do think, weirdly enough, mentioning this Meghan Trainor girl, I have read an interview, seen her comment and basically I guess answer questions. Big up Meghan Trainor. She did respond to a few people who kind of questioned her weight loss, and basically she had to ask her like, hey, at one point you were happy being your weight, and now you're talking about, you know, now you look the way you look. Obviously she's lost a massive amount of weight, maybe over 100 pounds. I think Meghan Trainor gave a good example, gave a good explanation, basically saying, yeah, when I made that song I was 19 years of age, my worldview was different. And I think she even said when she had kids, that was a real, like, you know, wake up call, because she got told by her doctors that she was like diabetic and stuff and she needs to get healthy. So, you know, again, people get there slowly, they get there in their own way, but she got there eventually. So I think all of these things are sometimes over egged. You can ask a question, you can be concerned, but you're not entitled to an answer. That's what I personally think when it comes to people's bodies and stuff. You are not entitled an answer.